Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to another YoVideogames review. Been a long time since I do these. I tend to do them very sporadically, but hey, here we are with another one. And this is a big one, of course, and of course it's obviously Resident Evil 4 Remake, the game that did not need a remake. So I've completed the game, I've sat on it for a day or two, and I thought, hey, what better time now than just, hey, I'll just give my thoughts on it, see how y'all feel about it. I was always the biggest skeptic on this game. There's, that's just a big disclaimer right there. I don't think this game needed a remake. It probably would never, it had almost no chance of living up to it. So, yeah, but, hey, it still looked like a good time. As trailers came in, it was like, okay, everything they showed of the game, every new trailer kept looking better and better and better and better. And it got to this point, okay, maybe this is going to be it. Maybe this will be a fantastic thing. So here we are, another remake of a Resident Evil game. I mean, they've gone plenty in now. But this one's actually kind of a... It's not as significant as, say, RE2 in the sense where this is a third-person to a third-person shooter game, right? Or like Resident Evil 1 to Resident Evil 1 Remake was like, classic style to classic style. And then Resident Evil 2 to Resident Evil 2 Remake was a big jump because it went from classic style, static cameras, to third-person shooter style. So that was a big one. Same with RE3. This one is taking a game from 2005 that really already still played very good, even though, yeah, it did look like a GameCube game. So, but now we have games that with 2023 graphics and everything. So, how does it hold up? Well, you know what? Let's just dive right in. And I think the first thing that everyone is going to forget, everyone will forget and lose track of here, is that spoiler for the end of it. I think it was really good. I think this game is fantastic. I think it was a great time. And everyone's going to forget that. Because the thing is I don't think this remake was perfect. And I don't think everything gelled. But yeah, I still think the game was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. And no one will remember that by the end of this review. Mark my words. But before we get into maybe the reasons why it wasn't like the best thing ever, let's just talk about the things that are great and what works really well here. I think right off the bat, one of the things I wanted to kind of bring up was that they added lore and they added stuff, background story, and they added more in-depth stuff on the characters, and I think it really works. There's a little thing about some lost hikers at the beginning of the game that really pays off. There's a lot more background stuff on the village itself, which is only kind of teased in the end game's credits or whatever. And yeah, but in this game we actually get way more backstory for, say, Luis. His backstory is greatly expanded upon in this game, and it's actually very nice. I think it's a great addition. More stuff for say the village chief or Mendez. Krauser gets a lot more backstory. Although I'm a little kind of, it's really good, but it almost feels a little disjointed or disconnected a bit. But it is very good to see that there's a lot more going on with Krauser than just this weird military dude who shows up. But yeah, these are all really positives because they did a good job of sort of expanding the sort of backstory and lore of what was in the original game, and it does it in a way that feels mostly authentic to how it was. So I think that's all really well done. I really like that stuff. That stuff's really fun to discover and find out and read through and see and everything. The other really big thing I have to say is the new parry and evade mechanics. They're amazing. I love them. It's going to be very hard to, go to, say, classic RE4 and not have the knife parry. So yeah, there is a parry mechanic system in this game with the knife, where it's you could tap a button right before an enemy is about to hit you with a melee object, and you can parry it. If you parry it a little late, you get a recoil for both of you. If you do a perfect parry, you make the enemy recoil and you get a free roundhouse kick on them, and that feels great. But you can't parry everything. I think this is a little weird because if an enemy goes for a grab, you can't parry a grab. You can parry a punch, but you can't parry a grab. A grab, you have to press the duck button, the evade button. So that's a little weird. There are some enemies that also have specific evade timings, people with giant scythes. You have to hit the evade button like a QT and jump over it. But I guess, and that's sort of just so you're not mashing parry all the time to try to keep you on our toes. So I kind of get the idea there where, hey, we don't want parry to be this overall it just counters every single type of attack. Although it is a little bit weird how someone goes to punch you, you parry the punch, you cut their arm off. Someone goes to grab you, oh no, knife won't do anything there. You have to duck. Weird. But I get it. You don't want the game to turn into just like an easy brain dead parry fest. So I kind of get that a little bit. I mean, obviously the game looks amazing. It's RE Engine, probably the latest version of it. It looks better than even the past RE games, especially since now it has to do a lot more larger open scale environments, and it looks great. And it looks great inside too, like just the lighting and sort of everything is just, lighting's always been sort of like RE Engine's like, biggest feature, but like, man, like just the indoors of things look like phenomenal as well as the outdoors of stuff. The only time it doesn't really look as great is just like the original game when, hey, you go to like big industrial area and it's just boring and it's just boring looking. There's nothing you can do about it. So it's kind of like, similarly graphically, it almost follows the same trend almost as the original game. There's other things. Here's the things I want to talk about. There are fun additions. Leon's a little more quippy in game, like during combat, mid boss fights, whatever. And I actually really like it. That's really like they seem to really like want to like emphasize that we didn't lose, the one-liner factory that was Leon of the original game. So he has a lot of funny quips. Some of them I really caught myself laughing out loud with. I really like that. He has a lot of fun dialogue, like mid-fight, mid-combat, mid-boss fight. And that's always great. And I want to make sure that I say that before people might have issue with some of the other things I might bring up. There's more weapons in the game, which is great. There's a bolt thrower early on, which there was a crossbow added in the original game that Ada had. It's kind of like a way more expanded version of that idea here because it can actually, there's like stealth mechanics now. But yeah, there's more weapons. There's more rifles and stuff. So it's kind of fun to like just play around with that stuff. There's like an MP5 now, and then there's like an M4 looking thing. So that's fun. I actually like the fact that there's more weapons, because more weapons to play around with is always a good thing. And I before I forget, also the ability to hotkey weapons to the D-pad, fantastic, great addition. Like absolute 100% quality of life improvement. Taking sort of things that were sort of added in RE5 and going forward, and then putting it in this game with the hotkey pressing up, down, left, or right. Great, love it. That's a fantastic addition. There's more shooting galleries throughout the game with the merchant, and they're way, way, way more in depth, and they hide more secrets and have more almost like puzzle-ish elements to getting like the highest tier rank. But I will say like that's great, but on the other hand, you do shooting galleries to get tokens, and you need 3 tokens to play a gotcha pawn machine. Because in the original game, you just play the shooting gallery just to get bottle caps, and they do nothing. This game, you get keychains that attach at save points to your attaché case, which give you game-altering stats. Like you'll drop more red herbs. You'll get like cheaper discounts at the merchant at the shop. So you get these game-altering stats. Like one of them is like you get full health from eating a bass. Stuff like that. Here's the weird problem. It's RNG based, and you have to use 3 coins earned in the shooting gallery. So you can't just play the shooting gallery once and then spin for a keychain. No, you got to have 3 coins, and then you get an RNG of them. And then there's like a whole Fortnite style of like common, uncommon, rare, epic drops for the keychains. And that's kind of a down point where it's like, oh, the shooting gallery is expanded and there's more of them. Awesome. And your reward actually has gameplay altering stats. Really cool. How do I get them? Go through this gachapon mechanic. Ugh. So it's a little bit of 1 step forward, 1 step back, which will make, if you want to fill it out, because there's like 30 of them, if you want to fill that out, that's going to be frustrating as shit. But another improvement though is some of the boss fights where some are radically altered. Not many, but like I'd say maybe a couple are pretty altered. Some are remixed. Some throw new twists at you. Some of them are exactly the same too. So you kind of get like this mixture of like, this boss fight will play out identically. This boss fight will have a new twist added in there. This boss fight will be completely different. I kind of like it almost more when they're different. Because then it's like, oh, it gives you a whole new gameplay feeling, because I'm obviously very familiar with the original game. Most of the time, these boss fights are better. The camera there is options to tweak with the camera and the aiming. I wish there was even more, though. I do feel like Leon aims a little slow, even on the most sensitive settings. This is probably something that could be, fixed easily with modification in the PC version, but tweaking around a bit, even with what they offer on console version for aim sensitivity. I kind of wish Land was able to aim faster or move faster, because some of the bosses and some of the new bosses, they move very quickly, and having to like aim 90 degrees pivot gets a little annoying sometimes. So very minor quibble on that part though. But yeah. Those are mostly my positives with this game, is that, yeah, like a lot of stuff is there's a lot of quality of life features. There's more content. The added areas, I would say, is that when they add an area, it tends to be pretty good. Like, I actually like some of the additions they do. Like, they added some more caves in the village area, and there's some new, there's expanded content areas, like Ashley's segment in the castle is a lot bigger. And they're generally better. Like, I like when they actually add to stuff. The added stuff is great. Maybe because like, hey, it's brand new and it doesn't feel like I'm kind of like retreading old ground. But I do think a lot of the added areas are, at least they look pretty cool. They don't always work out, and I'll get to that in a minute. But one thing that is great is that there's more treasures. There's a lot more things to just find in the game, because there was a finite amount of treasure you could find in the original game, and this one there's more, and then there's more ways to make it worth more money, because now gems are kind of universally, you can kind of place them universally in a bunch of different treasures, and I don't know, it adds a little more. The fact that there is so much more treasure is actually more fun, because it adds more reason to look around and look for stuff. And speaking of that, there's now a side quest mechanic where you'll find notes, which basically have little side quests on them, like kill a bunch of rats here, and a lot more blue medallion quest lines, and you cash them in at the merchant. They're pretty cool. Like, they give you spinels, which now are a tradable currency, no longer a sellable currency, and you trade it for mostly fluff stuff. Sometimes it'll be like treasure map. Sometimes it'll be like for a different attaché case. Like the laser pointer for the pistol is actually locked behind a trade mechanic. So, all that being said, I like the fact that the side quests kind of give you a little bit more something to do. Like, most of this, sometimes a lot of them are just like kill rats, shoot medallions. But sometimes you get something really cool, like, hey, there's an extra beefy enemy somewhere off the beaten path. If you go kill this extra beefy enemy, you'll get a whole bunch of spinels to trade in. I actually like this. This actually expands the game, gives you more to do, gives you even more reason to go explore when you have the ability to. So I think side quests are actually are a good net positive for the remake, just giving you more content to do. I like that. Again, it's a nice improvement, because this is a big game, so having more reason to explore is a good thing. All that being said, I'd like to now get into the part where you all get mad at me, and this is my minuses. These are issues I had with the game. Now, there's a lot of small nitpicks, like, oh, it's missing this dialogue, or it's missing that thing. Like, very tiny things are kind of like cut or gone. But I'm going to try to talk a little bit more about like the more substantial minuses. One is the durability on the knife and armor. Yeah, we kind of learned early on going in that the knife will have a durability and it can break. It gets repaired at a merchant. It's more annoying than anything, but you do end up getting more knives. However, like the original RE4 demo version, not the final game, the knife now takes up a spot in your inventory, and all additional knives also take up spots in your inventory, and they go really quickly on their durability. They can't be repaired. They're one-and-done uses. So, also, the body armor also has durability. Now, it's been buffed, so you can withstand a whole lot more hits on the body armor if you have it. However, it now has its own life bar, and when that goes away, you have to repair the body armor. And it really it's more just annoying than anything. I would have rather preferred just having the old style of body armor where it's like, you bought body armor, now you take a little bit less damage, rather than, okay, this thing is like just soaking up the hits until it's gone, and then I have to pay money to repair it. I don't think anyone likes durability in anything. I think this is a gameplay mechanic that needs to just fucking die. I don't think it ever is fun in any way, shape, or form. I mean, if you like it, great, I guess, whatever. But I can't think of a single instance where a game felt better because of durability mechanics. The reason why they have durability mechanics, again, is the same reason why there's a difference between evading and parrying, and that is because they don't want you to be able to parry God everything in the game. I don't know that that would even be that much of a problem, really. There's even an unlockable professional difficulty where parries only happen if you do a perfect parry, so there's no more like mid or late parries. Like, to me, I don't know that, we needed to have durability on top of that. Like, I feel like if you wanted a game to be tough but like not a parry fest, you could have played on professional or something like that. I don't know. It never got in the way to the point where, oh my god, I've lost all my knife ability, I can't play the game, I can't do anything. It never got in the way where it's like it ruined the gameplay experience or like, brought it down. It was just a minor inconvenience. But again, this was a game that was more or less considered perfect, so having a minor inconvenience added to a game that didn't have it before, to me, is a little bit of a negative. But it's not even really the worst. I would not even say it's the worst thing about the remake. It's just a minor annoyance. Another sort of minor annoyance is the crafting mechanics, because now you find gunpowder and you find resources in small and large varieties, and you can use gunpowder mixed with resources to craft bullets. This is a weird fucking addition, and the idea is that, well, now you can craft the ammo you need when you need it rather than hoping for it to drop. And okay, but you need, gunpowder, 10 pips of gunpowder take up 1 slot. A small resource takes up 2. A large resource takes up 3. You have to use large resources for specific types of ammo and grenades. Small resources have to be used specifically for specific types of bullets, like handgun and shotgun. So you can't craft handgun and shotgun ammo with small resource bag. It has to be a large resource bag. So in other words, you're going to take up at least 5 slots. You need 2 gunpowder slots and 1 large resource, which takes up 3 slots. So you have to take up 5 slots in your attaché case to, say, craft more rifle ammo, which only takes up 2 slots when all is said and done. So it's really just clogging your inventory, so you could have this option to craft grenades or ammo, at whatever you want once you have enough of each. And this really is solving a problem that did not exist in the original game, because there was never a point in the original game where you were at a lack of ammo unless you just were a really, really bad shot and just missed everything. Like, the game functioned on an old classic Metroid-style system where it's like, as you killed enemies, they would drop bullets. You pick up the bullets, you use them in the guns. Now we have a crafting system on top, and they still do drop bullets in this game, so they have both. They kind of have it both ways. So I don't know. The crafting mechanic to me was it's another minor annoyance, and it's solving a problem that didn't exist and didn't need to exist. There was absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever with the way the ammo mechanics worked in the original game. They don't even have incendiary grenades here. Like, it's just flash and hand, and well, now there's heavy grenades too. So it's very much a weird addition that just takes up more inventory space, and it's all just done in the name of like, well, now you can choose what bullets you want to craft, and it's like, well, that was never a problem to begin with. So just sort of an annoyance and didn't need to be there at all. It's solving a non-existent issue. A big one for me, here's a big one for me, and this is all spoiler territory, this whole review is spoiler. A big fucking downgrade for me is the fact that Leon never has phone or codec conversations with the villains. There's a huge lack of villain banter between the protagonist and antagonists in this game. So you miss every phone conversation between Leon and Salazar, although they do take the script, banter, and they put it in the boss fight. But like all the other stuff, your right hand comes off, we jack the line, all that stuff's just gone. He never talks to Sadler. He never calls Sadler small time. Sadler never taunts about, swatting a bothersome fly. Like, all this stuff is just gone. And what this ends up is that you actually see the villains far, far less in this game, because you don't have these sort of in-between codec calls between Leon and the villains. So the villains just kind of feel very reduced, and then you get to them, you fight, like, they say some stuff, like they say some creepy stuff, you kill them, the end of the game, and there's even like just less villain encounters overall. Like, Leon physically does not encounter Salazar more than I think twice in the whole game. They sort of kind of make up for it with him like talking over these speakers at a few occasions, but like there's no weird, weird talking in, the art gallery. There's no part where Leon throws his knife into Salazar's hand. None of that. There's so much cut stuff between Leon and the villains, and it makes the game feel a little hollow, especially in the second half, because everything starts feeling really fucking disconnected. Leon is saving Ashley is like, it's a main plot line. Krauser's there. He has just one cutscene where he talks to Sadler, but there's no mention of Sadler not trusting Krauser at all and wanting to get rid of him. That just doesn't even exist. Like Sadler's doing things for his own reason, which feels disconnected because Sadler is no longer working with Ada and no longer working with Wesker. So Sadler's this whole disconnected thing, and Ada's a very disconnected thing because she doesn't talk to Krauser at any point. And she only shows up, in the key moments from the last game to talk to Leon. And my God, we'll get to that. We'll get to the acting there in a bit. But yeah, everything just feels very disconnected. Even Salazar feels a little disconnected from Sadler, where he's just like, hey, telling Krauser at one point, make sure Sadler knows it was me who did all the work, kind of thing. It's like they almost have there's like no connection between hardly any of these villains at all. And then they don't have a lot. They have a lot less interaction with Leon. So you kind of you meet the villains, you shoot the villains, you kill the villains in their boss fight, you move on. Like it's a very much more hollow, quick experience when it comes to the villains in this game. Now, speaking of cut content and villains, and really just, I guess Ada's not really a villain, but I just want to say, just for the record, Ada, Krauser, Wesker, Salazar, and Sadler, all their new voices absolutely fucking suck. Sadler and Salazar are okay, but they're going for just a more, like, I'm generally creepy rather than, like, over-the-top buffoonish, cartoonish, which I would honestly prefer. Some people will like that, but, I mean, I'll talk about that in a bit, too. But, yeah, Wesker just sounds like some pissed-off gym coach. Krauser just sounds like a guy who smoked too much, kind of the same for Ada. Ada sounds fucking bored as shit in this game. I know they used the actress who portrayed her in the last live-action movie, but, like, she honestly feels like she'd rather be anywhere else than the recording booth during every cutscene she's in this game. Minor, I mean, it doesn't really affect the overall impact of the gameplay or anything, but yeah, a lot of the main characters and villains in this game, their voices are particularly weak, and I have no idea why. Here's where things, I think, really sort of like, okay, this is why this game is really just a little bit off from the original, and that is, there is actually a lot of cut content, particularly in the castle and the island. The village seems, it's mostly the same, but there's no gondola sequence. But, going off of that, a lot of the cut stuff is weird, unique sequences or scenarios that sometimes they get moved, a lot of times they get remixed, and a lot of stuff is just cut in general. And a lot of times what they replace this with is, go have Ashley hold down a switch to go flip flip a couple switches, on this side of the room and that side of the room, or go find two key doodads. For in particular, like one early one is the key to the church. You now have to go, boat around the lake and get, these statue heads to put on these pedestals, so then you can get the church key rather than having a unique sequence where, you move the water out of a water canal and a bunch of Ganados show up. And a lot of the stuff where they do replace it is with just these sort of Ganado shootout sequences. One example late in the game is that there's no sequence where you get on the back of a flatbed truck and Ashley pilots it down the road, and then all these enemies start running after the truck and you have to shoot them from the bed of the truck. That whole sequence is gone, and it's instead replaced with this sort of sequence where Ashley pilots a wrecking ball. Now, there was already a wrecking ball in the original game. However, it was just a small room with a lava hole in the center you could kick people into, and you just had to, manually press the wrecking ball yourself to get it to break a wall. This time, Ashley pilots a machine, and you basically are in a square-ish arena shooting out more Ganados. And that's kind of the biggest problem, is that a lot of cut stuff is just sort of replaced with just generic Ganado shootout moments. And it kind of misses some of the sort of constant innovations or just the constant newness of the original game, or just constantly throwing curveballs at you, where like on the island you're going to have sequences where you get to pick up a crane and pick up enemy soldiers and dump them in the garbage chute like a crane game. You don't have shit like that. You don't have shit like the truck escape sequence with Ashley. You don't you don't have sequences where like you have to get the platform you're on to fall and like do this timing sequence because the whole battle is completely gone. So you don't have weird sequences like that, with the timer counting down. You don't have lava rooms, with lava boats, for no real reason other than to just look cool. You do not have a Robo Salazar chasing you. There is a statue of Salazar that'll breathe fire on you, but it doesn't move. And that's remixed into the Donkey Kong barrel elevator sequence area before the Salazar fight. So again, some stuff gets remixed, but like you don't have just any of these moments where like, oh shit, there's a giant statue and now it chases you and you have to dodge falling pillars and jump across a chasm. There's a lot of like little things like that are just gone, and it's mostly just replaced with fighting more zealots, more ganados. And the pacing basically suffers ever so slightly because of it. It doesn't have the sort of irreverent, zany, I don't know what's going to come next that the original game quite had. And again, like the most zaniest stuff, like the minecart sequence, which is in the game and it's expanded and is great. It's even better. It's taken from the original game. And anytime they try to add something zany on their own, you just don't see the craziest stuff. The craziest stuff that happens in the game is stuff that's pulled from the original. Again, like the minecart sequence, like helicopter pilot Mike, stuff like that. There's a couple of flashes of sort of like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. Like they greatly expanded the prison area at the very ass end of the game, where there's a whole bunch of hanging bodies now over generators, and you can use the scope to see which ones are alive and don't disturb the ones that are alive. That's actually kind of fun. There's some fun stuff like that every so often. But the pacing is just a little bit off because of it, and it doesn't have the same level of just like constantly throwing new things at you that the original game had. And instead it really kind of just wants to just replace most of that with flip switching and Ganado shootout sequences. So it's a bit of a bummer, but it's there because of it. Another sort of like slight bummer, and this is not too much the game's fault, but a little bit, is that it does lack any additional modes upon completion. You get professional difficulty unlocked, and you have a bunch of stuff you can buy, like the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes. However, you do not have, as of the game's launch, you don't have the Mercenaries, which is coming. It's a free update, but it's not there at launch. I don't know why they didn't just push the game back a couple weeks. You do not have Assignment Ada. Separate Ways doesn't exist. We don't know if it will exist. We don't know if either of them will exist. So you don't have as much post-game stuff that the original game launched at, so many years ago. So how that kind of falls on the player. The game is still very long. It's the longest Resident Evil still. It's going to give you a lot of things to do and collect and replay. There's more content, at least for like side quests and stuff like that in the main campaign. So take that into consideration how you will. Mercenaries is coming as a free update. We don't have no idea what if any of either Ada mode is coming. We don't know, but yeah, like it doesn't have the post game that the original game did as of right now. That's a little bit of a bummer, but it's kind of really up to you. Feel how you will about it. It's as a $60 new game in 2023. But overall, my overall thoughts on the game are it's a lot of fun. It's the best Resident Evil since Resident Evil 4. I think this is better than 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3 remake. I think the original design of the game holds up extremely well. I think this game doesn't really commit one way or the other because it at times tries to be a much more serious game, and then at times it basically pays homage to the irreverence and the general stupidity of the original game, but never fully leans into it and kind of tries to have its cake and eat it. So it'll have these really like, oh, we're going to try to tug at the heartstring moments with certain other characters, who, and then we're just going to follow that up with some dumb minecart sequence chase or whatever, right? So there is a little bit of like, I just kind of wish it would lean one way or the other. I'd rather it just stuck to being just a stupid as fuck action horror, film. But basically, this remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, it feels like a big budget Hollywood remake of a popular foreign martial arts film or a foreign horror film. When something from another, market or another, territory in the world, they make a really great horror film or they make a really great martial arts film, and then Hollywood buys the rights and they remake it with their modern cinematic sensibilities and throw $100 million plus at it. That's what Resident Evil 4 remake feels like. It feels like the big budget Hollywood remake version of a famous foreign horror film. So, all that being said, I think the game's still fantastic. One of the best games I've played all year. Probably going to be one of the best games I do play all year. I will give this game a 9.5. The original is a 10 out of 10. This is just a little bit off. It's like slightly off key, just ever so slightly. It's still absolutely worth your time. It's still a great game. It's what everyone's going to forget. Everyone's just going to focus on the fact that I didn't like this or that. But that being said, if you remember one thing, it's that I love the game. I think it's great. I don't think it's as good as the original. And you know something? That's okay because it's still worth your time. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you on the channel. Later, dudes.